Okay guys, it's Laura from Day by Day in Our World, and I shared earlier about the Mockmill and grinding your own grain, which is wonderful. And today I'm going to try a new recipe I've never made before. This book is an absolute favorite for bread machines. The Bread Lovers Bread Machine Cookbook. There's not a single recipe in here that I have not loved when I've made it. So I thought using some of this grain that we ground through the Mockmill, we're going to make what's called Irish potato brown bread. So I've got my ingredients kind of gathered here. I'm going to use a bread machine. If you've kind of balked at the idea of making bread at home, I don't know when the dough is going to be ready. I feel your pain even after years of trying to make big batches in a large mixing machine. I still struggle with getting a really good loaf. But when I use my Cuisinart, this just happens to be the brand I've got right now, Cuisinart bread machine, I have yet to really experience bad loaves. And that's because inside of here it's going to keep it at the perfect temperature to proof your bread. That's something we struggle with in Alaska. I don't want to proof it in my regular oven and then turn up the heat because I have a gas oven. If you had electric, you could do that. So I need something that will help my dough rise. And in the dead of winter, my dough does not rise very well because our inside temperature is not that warm. Anyways, any bread machine, you're going to have this little mixer paddle at the bottom here. You want to make sure it's in place. And that's what's going to be spinning to mix everything when it hooks in. Now, any bread machine will give you instructions. They'll give you some sample recipes. This particular recipe that I'm going to be using, I'm going to pop it up here, that I'm going to be using has ingredients listed. And it's in order. You want your wet ingredients going in first and then your dry ingredients. It says to do it according to your manufacturer's instructions. I just go from the top down on here and I have never had a problem. This one is not suitable for use with delay timer. There are some bread machine recipes you can throw everything in, put it on timer, wake up to a wonderful fresh loaf of bread. We used to do that years and years ago when it was just my husband and I. And it was a wonderful way between that and a coffee pot that can be set to time. You wake up with coffee ready and bread ready to go. Just take it out and cool it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going. I'm starting with my water. And if I can stick my finger in here and not go ow and pull it right out, but still feel like it's warm, then it's probably about the right temperature. The last thing you want to do is to have your water either too cold or too hot. If you do, then your yeast is not going to work the same way. So I've got, let's see, I'm making a 2-pound loaf. So I need 1 2/3 cups, and of course now it's dancing around, but here's my 1 2/3 cup measure of water. I'm going to pour that in here. Set that aside. The next thing on here is butter. 4 tablespoons, and I've cut it up into smaller pieces. And it's nice and warm here today, so it's actually starting to want to melt. But you want it small enough chunks that it can incorporate, but you don't want it to be melted for this. If you wanted melted butter, they tell you. The next thing is the 3 tablespoons of honey. And I've sprayed the inside of this with some non-stick spray to just try to help the honey come out. And I'm going to help it a little bit more with a spatula. Now honey in this case is your sweetener. You need a little bit of, well, okay. You don't absolutely need, I make some breads that have no sugar, but you're going to find everything rises wonderfully with just that little bit of sugar to help the yeast do its job. Alright, oh. Yum, you can turn down honey. Okay, the next thing I've got, this one is not 100% whole wheat bread. It actually calls for a cup of bread flour. So if you have family members that say, oh, I hate whole wheat bread, I don't want to eat it, start with recipes like this where you're incorporating some whole wheat or whole grain and some of just the regular. It's going to be a nice transition. So I've got that, and now I've got a nice leveling device here. I'm going to add 2 more cups, but in this case I'm going to use the whole wheat that I just ground. And you don't want to completely pack this in, you just want to kind of level it. Alright, so I've got my 2 cups. So that's a total of 3 cups of flour. Or actually, no, I need 2.5 cups. Oh, I needed a half cup of each. Okay. I went and got some more of my regular, so that's a total of 1.5 cups of regular bread flour. And now I'm going to get this. So that's a total of 4 cups of flour that we have in here. Then I'm going to add 1/3 cup instant potato flakes. What? Instant potato flakes? If you've never made bread from scratch, this is one of those secret ingredients, if you will. Potatoes help to make a really nice moist bread. I have a recipe from this same cookbook that I've made quite a number of times. Uses the instant potato flakes, makes the most phenomenal whole wheat, well, I make them part whole wheat, part white wheat, phenomenal hamburger or hot dog rolls. Okay, the next thing that I need some salt. 2 teaspoons of salt. My preference right now is a nice pink Himalayan sea salt. Any of the ones that have all those nice minerals in it is what I recommend. Now, the next thing I need is some gluten. Now, and this is 2 teaspoons of gluten. Whoops, no, it's supposed to be 2 tablespoons. Okay, so 3 teaspoons in each tablespoon. So if I wanted 2, that'd be 6. Should read. This is a reason to read your instructions more closely. Okay, so the last thing I have to add is I need to add yeast, and they talk about 2 different kinds. In here they mention SAF yeast and they mention bread machine yeast, and I just kind of treat the yeast I buy in bulk as bread machine yeast. So I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of this. Okay, and I keep some yeast in a small little container in my refrigerator, and then I keep the rest of that the bigger bag that I've bought. I put it in a plastic freezer bag and keep it in the freezer, and then just transfer some when I need it. Alright, so I like to double check. I put in water, I put in butter, I put in the honey. I did the whole wheat flour, 2.5 cups, 1.5 cups of bread flour, 1/3 cup of the potato flakes, 2 tablespoons of gluten, 2 teaspoons of salt, and a tablespoon of yeast. It is all in there. I'm going to move this. Okay, so I've got everything in here. I've got my bread machine ready to go. Let me see if I can get you guys a little closer so you can see. Right. So in here, you can see down in there, that's where everything's going to attach. Yes, this is a very well-loved bread machine. It's not actually new to me. I was given it by a friend that was leaving Maryland back when we lived in Maryland, and I had a bread machine that was working. I was going to give this to my sister, and then shortly after my friend gave me this one, our bread machine conked and just kind of kept it. Alright, so I put everything in here, close the lid. You have this nice spot here that you can look through and see how things are proofing. This is a 2-pound loaf. Because it's whole wheat, I'm not anticipating it getting too large, but there are times where it has expanded past, and all of a sudden you start seeing dough hitting this. Alright, this machine has a whole lot of different settings that I can be doing. Let me bring you closer. Alright, so I have 1.5, 2 pounds that I can pick. I can decide if I want to do mix-ins or not, what kind of loaf and crust. So I want to do, where is it? Whole wheat is the setting I want to do. So I go on my menu button for this, and I'm picking number 3. Whole wheat is telling the machine, first of all, it's going to take longer. You need a longer rise. It takes longer for the water to absorb. And it's also going to just It's just optimized for that. Now for loaf, it's already set. There's a little thing here, it's kind of hard to see, for 2 pound. Crust, I can determine, do I want light, medium, or dark? I have it set on medium. That's fine by me. Mix-ins, I'm not planning any mix-ins. I'm going to turn that off. I don't need it to, what it does is it beeps. So if you wanted to say make a chocolate chip bread or raisin bread where you don't want to put the chocolate chips or raisins in right at the beginning, you want to put them in towards the final, at the final need, so it just incorporates. That's what that's for. So I've got my setting for that. I've got the right size. I've got the crust I want. I'm just going to position this in a good spot and press start.